Researchers followed almost 14,000 people over roughly 10 years. They tracked what these people ate and how their memory and thinking held up as they aged. When the results came in, there was a clear pattern. The people who regularly ate 5 specific everyday foods you can find in any grocery store at any budget, had noticeably sharper thinking and slower memory decline than everyone else. The researchers called this one of the most promising dietary changes older adults can make for their brain, not a special supplement, not an expensive protocol. 5 foods, most of which you may already have in your kitchen right now. Today I'm going to tell you exactly what they are, why each one works, and the simplest way to start adding them to what you're already eating. The 5th one surprises most people. Stay with me. Before we get into the list, one quick thing. If you find this kind of content helpful, hit subscribe and the like button right now. There's a new video every single day, and subscribing is the simplest way to make sure you never miss one. And if you have a question about today's topic or something you'd like to share, drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. Now, let's get into it. First, a quick word on why food matters so much for the brain after 70. Here's the honest picture. As you get older, your brain goes through real changes. The pathways your memories travel along, the connections between brain cells naturally become a little slower to maintain. This is not a disease, it's a gradual shift, and the research is increasingly clear that what you eat plays a meaningful role in how fast or how slowly that shift happens. Your brain is one of the most energy-hungry organs in your body. It's running around the clock even while you sleep, and it depends on a steady supply of specific nutrients to protect itself, repair itself, and keep those connections strong. The good news is that some of the most protective nutrients for the aging brain come from simple, everyday foods, not exotic ingredients, not expensive capsules, things like a handful of berries, a side of greens, a piece of salmon. Let's walk through each one. The first food is berries. Blueberries especially, but also strawberries and blackberries. Here's what makes berries special for your brain. They're packed with natural plant compounds. Researchers call them flavonoids, but think of them as tiny protective shields for your brain cells. As we age, there's a kind of slow internal wear and tear happening at the cellular level. It builds up over years and is one of the key drivers of the gradual memory and focus changes people notice after 60. Berries help fight that. Research published through the NIH's biomedical database found that these berry compounds have anti-inflammatory and protective effects on brain cells, slowing the kind of damage linked to faster cognitive aging. What's the practical move? A small daily serving is all it takes. About 1/3 of a cup. That's a small handful. Add it to your oatmeal, your yogurt, or just eaten on their own in the morning. Here's a tip worth keeping. Frozen blueberries are just as nutritious as fresh ones, and they're significantly cheaper at any U.S. grocery store. A bag of frozen blueberries in the back of your freezer means you're never out. One line to hold on to: a small daily handful of berries at breakfast is one of the simplest, best researched habits you can build for your brain. The second food is leafy greens. Spinach, kale, romaine, the dark leafy kind. I want to share a finding from this research that I think is worth pausing on. Researchers tracked older adults who regularly ate at least 1 serving of leafy greens per day. Over time, compared to people who rarely ate greens, these folks had noticeably sharper thinking and memory. When the researchers measured the gap, it was equivalent to having a brain that functioned like it was roughly 11 years younger. 11 years of difference from eating greens. You know, one study doesn't prove everything, and no single food is a guarantee. But that finding, reported by researchers and cited by the Cleveland Clinic, is consistent with a broader body of evidence about why leafy greens are so good for the aging brain. Here's the plain language reason why. Dark leafy greens are rich in folate, a B vitamin your brain uses to maintain the nerve pathways involved in memory and focus. They also contain compounds that fight the same kind of slow cellular wear and tear we talked about with berries. What's a practical serving? 2 cups of raw spinach in your morning eggs is one of the easiest moves you can make. Spinach wilts dramatically when cooked. 2 full cups raw becomes about a 1/4 cup cooked, so it's effortless to fold into scrambled eggs, an omelet, or a quick saute with olive oil, or a simple salad at lunch with romaine or mixed greens. No complicated recipe needed. One line, 1 to 2 servings of dark leafy greens every day is one of the most consistently supported food habits for brain health in older adults. The third food is fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, or trout. This one works through a different mechanism, and it's one of the most important on this list. Here's something most people don't know. Your brain is roughly 60% fat. A large portion of that fat is a specific type your brain uses as an actual building material to construct and maintain brain cells. Your body can't make enough of this fat on its own. It has to come from your food. The type found in fatty fish is the most direct, most usable form for the brain. Research published through the NIH's Biomedical Library, reviewing multiple studies of older adults, found that higher levels of this type of fat in the blood were associated with better memory, faster thinking, and even better preserved brain tissue over time. Think of it like this. Your brain is constantly doing maintenance work on itself. This fat is one of its main building materials. When that supply runs low, which it easily can, especially if you don't eat much fish, that maintenance becomes harder. What's a practical target? The eating pattern that showed the strongest link to brain protection in that large NIH study recommends at least 1 serving of fish per week. 2 servings is even better. A serving is roughly 3 ounces, about the size of a deck of cards or the palm of your hand. If salmon isn't your thing or feels expensive, canned sardines and olive oil are worth trying. They're mild, inexpensive, and work well on whole grain crackers or stirred into a simple pasta dish. Canned wild salmon is another affordable option at most grocery stores. 1 line, 1 to 2 servings of fatty fish per week gives your brain the specific raw material it needs most. We're halfway through the list. If this is helpful so far, a quick like really does help more people over 60 find this kind of content. And if you know someone who would benefit from this, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, this is a good moment to share it with them. The 4th food is walnuts. Of all the nuts, walnuts are the ones researchers keep coming back to when the subject is brain health. Here's why. Walnuts are the richest plant-based source of a type of omega-3 fat related to, though not identical to, the kind found in fish that the body can partially convert into brain-supportive compounds. On top of that, walnuts contain vitamin E and other plant compounds that help fight the low-grade inflammation that tends to quietly build up in the brain as we age. Think of that inflammation like a smoke alarm stuck in the on position. It's not an emergency, but it creates constant low-level noise and damage over time. The compounds in walnuts help turn down that alarm. The Cleveland Clinic specifically calls out walnuts as having a higher concentration of brain protective compounds than any other nut. What's a practical amount? About 1 ounce per day. That's roughly 14 walnut halves, a small handful. You can throw them into oatmeal, toss them into a salad, or just eat them with an afternoon snack instead of chips or crackers. That's it. One small note, the healthy fats in walnuts go stale more quickly at room temperature. If you buy a large bag, store it in the refrigerator, and they'll stay fresh much longer. One line, a small daily handful of walnuts is one of the most accessible brain healthy habits you can start today, no recipe required. The fifth food is one that surprises most people. It's olive oil, not as a supplement, just the everyday oil you cook with or drizzle on food. Olive oil contains a family of natural plant compounds that work against both inflammation and the slow cellular wear and tear we've talked about throughout this video. Multiple long-term studies tracking older adults have found that regular olive oil use was associated with better cognitive function over time. A large review published through the NIH's research database found that olive oil consumption was among the dietary factors most consistently linked to better brain health in older adults following Mediterranean-style eating patterns. What's important here is that the amount doesn't need to be large. 1 to 2 tablespoons per day used as a salad dressing, drizzled over vegetables, or used to cook your eggs or greens is the range the research points to. Extra virgin olive oil is a specific form most studied for these effects because it retains the highest level of those protective plant compounds. It costs a little more than regular vegetable oil, but a bottle goes a long way when you're using a tablespoon at a time. A simple swap, use extra virgin olive oil wherever you'd normally use butter or vegetable oil in everyday cooking. That single change puts you in line with decades of research on brain supportive eating. One line, extra virgin olive oil in your everyday cooking is one of the simplest swaps you can make with one of the strongest research records behind it. Let's pull all 5 together. Berries, a small daily handful, fresh or frozen, for the protective plant compounds that shield brain cells. Leafy greens, 1 to 2 servings a day of spinach, kale, or romaine for the B vitamins and antioxidants your brain relies on. Fatty fish, 1 to 2 servings per week of salmon, sardines, or trout for the specific fat your brain uses as a building material. Walnuts, about 1 ounce a day for the plant-based omega-3s, vitamin E, and anti-inflammatory compounds. And olive oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons in your everyday cooking for the protective plant compounds linked to better cognitive function over time. The pattern you're looking at, these 5 foods together, is the heart of what researchers have named the MIM diet, a way of eating specifically studied for brain protection in older adults. In that large NIH-supported study of nearly 14,000 people, followed over about 10 years, those who most closely followed this pattern had less cognitive decline than those who didn't. That's not a miracle claim. That's a consistent finding from a large, well-designed, long-running study. None of these 5 foods require a special program. None of them need a complicated recipe. Most of them are things you can add to what you're already doing starting tomorrow morning. Just a reminder, this is for learning, not medical advice. Before changing your diet, exercise, supplements, or medication, talk with your own doctor who knows your full history. If you have conditions that affect what you eat, or you take medications that interact with certain foods, your doctor's guidance always comes first. If you found this helpful, subscribe and hit the bell. There's a new video every single day, and each one is built around trusted research for people over 60. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these 5 foods do you already eat regularly? Are you already getting your berries, or is there one on this list you've never tried? Tell me below. I read every comment. Tomorrow we're tackling one of the most common misunderstandings I hear from people over 60, how much protein your body actually needs, and why most people don't come close to enough. I'll see you then.